Hey everyone, it's been a while since I made a video and I just want to continue with where I left off. I want to mention that a lot of you targeted individuals out there whom are preaching isolation and staying away from friends and family and coworkers, and blame all the problems on gang stalking. For those of you TIs out there whom are believing in that, the direction you're headed is the wrong direction. Now let me explain. Based on my personal experience, when I'm by myself, the gang stalkers, they love to do what they do, annoy me and bother me and doing all the things that piss me off. And when I go out into public, supermarkets, or just driving around, or going to meetings or appointments, family gathering, seeing friends, when I'm out in public, I tend to block all the gang stalkers out of my head. And the same goes for seeing my family, having dinner with them, or just going out with them, or just relaxing with them. So hanging out with my family actually helps me against these gang stalkers. It takes them out of my mind for the time being. So it's a good thing to not be isolated. And it's a good thing to change your situation. That's why I teach you guys to find a new hobby, take care of your business, do something productive and positive for yourself to keep you on track to get your life back together. So if you're a TI and you've been staying away from your friends and family and having a terrible attitude towards life, well, you're actually falling into the trap of these gang stalkers. That's exactly what they want you to do, be isolated. Because when you're isolated, you're in your privacy, and they just love messing with you. Before I realized these gang stalkers were in my life messing with my personal relationships, I was going through a rough time with my ex-girlfriend, and there was cheating involved in all that, and she tried her best to prove to me that nothing was going on. And my mind was just stuck on not believing her. And one of the things that really bothered me was whenever I talked to her on the telephone. And fast forward to now, I know what's going on, and I can comfortably say all you TIs out there know exactly what I'm talking about when I say you're talking to someone on the cell phone and you're hearing gang stalkers. Okay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So from my experience was, when I call her or when she calls me, I talk to her on the phone, I would hear gang stalkers, right? At the time I didn't know they were gang stalkers, but I would hear these like sounds of other men or someone near her listening on the cell phone next to her, kind of like she's holding the phone and someone's standing right there kind of like listening in, eavesdropping. And I would hear, remarks and stuff. If I say something, I would hear a man's remark mocking me and things like that. And obviously at the time I didn't believe her. I would, in my mind, I would believe someone was next to her. So I would make her to do things such as, well, when I talk to you, I want you to use a separate camera and record yourself talking to me. So she would do that. And I would watch the videos, and as I was watching the video, my mind would constantly try to think of ways to doubt her. Even though she's just filming herself talking to me on the phone, the conversation, everything's recorded. She's always like filming herself. And as I'm watching the video, my mind would start to think, that can't be. I know someone is there. Someone must be behind the camera. Like, meaning she's filming and someone's standing behind the camera. So, and then I thought of, okay, I'm gonna need her to stand right in front of a mirror. So, and have the camera pointing at her with the mirror behind her. So if there's a mirror behind her, then I'll see the reflection and make sure no one's behind the camera. So she would do that, she'll comply. And when I'm watching it, there's no one there, I still don't want to believe it because I'm so sure someone was there. And then I would start to believe someone was crawling on the floor just out of sight. Because, she wasn't really filming that well. Like, she just kind of get the mirror behind her. It covers a good area, but then it doesn't cover the floor. So I would start telling myself, someone's actually crawling on the floor as she films. And then I would demand her to, talk to me in front of her closet mirror, because it's like a full-size mirror. And she would do that. And then I would tell myself, okay, I still don't believe it, because she would kind of like move around a little bit sometimes as she talks, which is normal. So I would tell her to don't move, stand there the whole time. And she would comply. And I still didn't believe her. And that's just one example of things that she did for me. And fast forward to now, thinking back on it, I was a terrible person to her. I was a really bad person. I had temper issues. I yelled and screamed at her, practically tried to force her out of my life every day. I was just a bad person. One night I remember screaming at her on the phone, and she drove over, and I was screaming at her in front of her. I was so pissed off. I was throwing things. I was just really upset, and she was crying. And it got so bad, I went outside and got into my car, and I sat in my car in the dark. And I was just calming down, and eventually I realized something. I remember asking myself, was that really me? Because I know I'm not a violent person. I'm not that type of person where I'll just be throwing things and get so upset. So it's almost like a moment of awakening where I realized, who was that person that was so angry and so violent? And I didn't really know at the time, but I did ask myself, was that really me? And just by me recognizing that and asking that question in my head, it was a huge turning point for me. And at the time I didn't realize that, but now I do. And I want to tell you a secret these gang stalkers do to you targeted individuals. So when you're talking to someone on the phone, what was going on with me was there's a high volume voice to skull. So that's where I can hear someone else's voice. and believing someone was there with her. And at the same time, I'm getting hit with low volume voice to skull. And what that was the low volume voice to skull was telling me, she's cheating on you. Someone's there, they just had sex. Someone's there with her. So I didn't hear the low volume, but it was a feeling. You see what I'm saying? It's like a 1-2 combo. The high volume is mocking me on the phone so I can hear them. And then the low volume is making me feel that, oh, she's cheating, someone's there. And don't trust her. And the low volume was also the voice that was telling me all the other possibility that could be going on. Meaning, oh, someone is behind the camera. Someone is on the floor. Someone is just around the corner. Or you're walking down Walmart. Someone's one aisle over. So those are the low volume voice to skull. And that 1-2 combo is very dangerous. That's why it's important for you TIs out there to use logic and calm yourself down and really think about it and try to be logical about what's going on. Could there really be someone that's following me? Anyone that passes me out in public? Is there a stalk me? Is it possible? No. Someone is not going to follow you or track you everywhere you go. No agency is going to do that. But there is gang stalking. You have to go out of the box to figure out what's happening. If you just believe in it's the government, well, that's fine. But I hope you'll break out of it. Because don't be stuck with just the government and then you settle with that idea and then you're done. The gang stalkers are not the government. And giving the credit to the government is giving them too much credit. It's important to have friends and family because that's what keeps you sane. It's good to watch your local news. That's what keeps you sane. Keeps you more in the reality of what's going on. And if you're too isolated, you're talking too much in your head, or you're listening too much to the gang stalkers, you're gonna live in a fantasy. Kind of like what I was doing, believing someone was behind the camera, someone was crawling on the floor. I mean, there are times I would tell myself, who in the right mind and who's got the balls, got the courage to mock me to a point where they'll be standing behind the camera every phone conversation I'll have with my ex? Who would do that? That's nonsense. That's crazy. Who would crawl on the floor and mock me and laugh at what's going on every time I talk to my ex-girlfriend? That is insane. You want to use logic? That's not logic at all. That's just craziness. And I was crazy at the time. Now I'm not, because I know what's going on. And if you don't figure it out, yeah, it's possible that you could go crazy. I hope not. Don't run away from your family. They're not the gang stalkers. No fear. Monk signing out.